Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. It's 222. Sorry. So, fair warning, today I am driving with my sunroof vented to see if I can still get the air circulation I need in the car and not have my window down on the faster roads, because I'm still getting that weird interference. So that's our attempt today. Hopefully it doesn't distort the quality of the whole thing, because it's vented now and it's just going to stay that way until I get home. But we'll see. So last week we only got 3 episodes in. We're getting there, friends. I ended up having to take a half day on Thursday to take Girly McBabyface to the doctor, and she's actually doing pretty good until they gave her some medicine there, and then she went downhill fast. Ended up taking a brief trip to the hospital, but she's doing well now. Then I got sick. I had that awful stomach bug that was going around my house, but now everybody seems mostly healthy, so we're finally moving past it for now. But it is, wintertime. Unfortunately, between the hospital and the stomach bug, we only got to do the Sunday Two-Headed Giant pre-release event. Boo and I. She partnered with Rockstar and I partnered with Mirror Match. And neither team did very well, but we both had a really good time. I think we both ended up with a win. Mirror Match and I were 1-2 in the end, and her and Rockstar were 1-1-1. They were all 1. So it was really fun. Got to play with some of the cards. Hasn't really firmed anything up for Standard. I've been playing a lot of Allegiance Limited on Arena, because I actually did really well in a few of my Allegiance drafts and kept earning gems, so I kept drafting. This is why I don't go to casinos, because now I'm out of gems. And believe me, there was no moment of, it's not like there's much else, this is what they're there for. No, it was like, wonder if I can win out this one too and get more gems. The answer was no. No, I couldn't. But I do have a full playset of Judith Scourge Divas now, so that's cool. Husband has started playing Arena. He's having a little trouble staying true to the path during the initial grind to unlock all the dual colored decks that they give you and everything, but we're getting there. We actually played some head-to-head last night, and that was fun. We ended up playing this hour-and-a-half game between this black-white tokens list I was playing with. It's not competitive, but was it cute as a button. With Teysa and the 2-1 Vigilant Orzhov card, Impetuous Oligarch or something like that, Imperious and something Oligarch, Hunted Witnesses, Doomed Dissenters, Divine Visitation, just all sorts of adorableness. And he was playing his mono white life gain deck that he's put together. The nail in the coffin for me was, one, I kept forgetting Teysa gave all my tokens vigilance, so I should have been playing way more aggressively in the earlier game, and I wasn't. And 2, he got a Resplendent Angel out that I had already blown through my handful of removal spells, because that game just drug on and on and on. But it was a good time. We had a great time playing together. It was pretty awesome. But before we, dive into standard stuff, let's talk about the news from this weekend, or I guess from yesterday. The people got what they wanted. It happened. KCI is now banned in Modern. So, there's always the discussion to be had. Where's my coffee? Come to me, coffee. There we go. Did it actually need a ban? And unfortunately, I can't really talk intelligently about that. Sorry, apparently I can't speak intelligently about anything today. Now, I've been out of large tournaments for the past, over 6 months. And even before that, I go very sporadically. It's mostly only when they come close enough and only when the stars align. So, I haven't played against much KCI. I think I played against it once at my LGS, and he never got his combo pieces. He never got online. He never even tried to go off. So he just got boned by his deck 2 games. Then, the last, because I wasn't at FNM this week because I was sick, but the week before, wow, that building has this really pretty LED light effect going around the top of it. Yeah, shiny things distract me. My bad. So, apparently, at the last FNM I was at, we had 2 KCI players. I didn't play against either of them. I played against Burn, all 3 matches that I played. I got the round 1 bye. I went 4-0, and that was super exciting. I'm pretty sure I already talked about that, because, yeah, it was really exciting. And I beat Vintage. And that man has politely stomped my face into the ground every time I have played against him. But not that time. So, I can't really speak as to if it needed to get a ban or not. It doesn't seem like it was on top of the format long enough to warrant a ban. That the format had adequate time to try to adjust to it and failed to. Especially, it seems like your hate for Affinity and your hate for Dredge should both work well against that deck. But again, I don't actually know how the deck works. I don't know what the infinite combos are. I do know that it does infinite loops, and that's how it wins. But I don't know what the loops are. So I don't know if Grafdigger's Cage would actually help you at all against that deck. I'm assuming not. The best answers for both Dredge and Affinity are in white, and that being Stony Silence and Rest in Peace. But not every deck can naturally produce white mana. And adding a color to your deck just for sideboard cards always feels real bad. So, I don't know, would Leyline of the Void help against that deck? I assume it would, because again, it does something with Graveyard Recursion. That's why Scrap Trawler was needed. But again, this is all demonstrated. This all demonstrates that I don't really have an intelligent opinion over whether or not the deck needed a ban. So the reality of it is, the deck got a ban. Okay, the sunroof thing may not have been working. I just noticed I was redlining my dots. So, let's set aside whether or not it needed to be done. The fact of the matter the fact of the matter is that it was done. The milk is already spilt. Now, of course, that's not going to stop people who believe that it didn't need a ban from complaining about the fact that it got a ban. Which, was really the only reason I was in any way excited for a ban to happen, so that we could stop talking about whether or not it needed nerfing. But see Splinter Twin for how well that works out. So it was decided it did need some nerfing, and there were really 4 cards that everybody seemed to be looking at. Well, Scrap Trawler was really a fringe glance from what I was seeing. The main 3 contenders seemed to be KCI itself, Ancient Stirrings, and Mox Opal. Again, as I said previously, banning Scrap Trawler would have been a very short-sighted decision, because it's only a matter of time before another artifact gets printed that turns it on in some way, that replaces that functionality. You can't expect the development teams to anticipate every modern card interaction when building new standard sets or even building supplemental sets. You can't expect that. Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but you're being unreasonable if you do, in my opinion. So that leaves these other 3 cards. Now, I really feel that people who were campaigning for it to be Ancient Stirrings or Mox Opal had a grudge against other decks that feature those cards. Like, people still act like Tron is this oppressive bully in the modern format, even though, like, it really hasn't been topping the charts so much lately. I like, pretty much all modern decks are degenerate in some way or another. Especially so if you come to Modern from Standard, like, you're just starting to get into Modern, and prior to that, all you played was Standard. And over the last couple years, comparing Standard to Modern, it's a steep learning curve, because they've been powering down Standard for years. Or trying to. And then you have blocks like Kaladesh, and some things were clearly not really well thought out there. So, modern decks that do well are inherently, in general, not fair decks. So I really don't get why everybody's still on the Tron hate train. But sure. Also, Hardened Scales Affinity. Man, I think both Ancient Stirrings and Mox Opal are big deals to that deck. Ancient Stirrings, I would think, less so. Mox Opal has been a really required piece for any heavy artifact-based deck, because it gets you, good ramp early on. It contributes to its own condition. That's the problem with Mox Amber. Why Mox Amber is not in any way close to Mox Opal. Because Mox Opal requires Metalcraft to do anything. Well, it itself is an artifact. Therefore, that is one of the 3 artifacts you need to turn on Mox Opal. Mox Amber does nothing to contribute to turning itself on. Until something else turns it on, it is a completely useless card. Like, just sits in your battlefield. Or Amber Mox. I don't remember how they worded that title. It was either Mox Amber or Amber Mox. It doesn't matter. So I really feel that people who were campaigning for Mox Opal or Ancient Stirrings to be banned, it was really a 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. KCI made the most sense. Now, generally, when they ban cards from decks, they're trying to slow it down. They're trying to soften it, nerf it a bit, not completely kneecap it. Whereas banning KCI, I think, does completely kneecap that deck. But I really don't know what other card you could have banned. Then again, I don't really have a firm idea of how KCI works, so I'm sure there are other options. I think KCI was probably the best choice if they want to just be over and done with. It's like with Splinter Twin. When that deck became a problem, they banned the namesake card and completely shut it down. Pod decks, they banned the namesake card and completely shut them down. Now, prior to KCI, I remember husband came across a deck called Cheerios that seemed to have a similar strategy. It was something about playing a bunch of bad zero-drop artifacts for profit. But it wasn't terribly consistent. It wasn't a tier 1 deck. So the playing useless artifacts strategy is still out there. Just not with KCI. I'm okay with the ban. Like, I honestly don't really care either way, though. The other big problem, and not that this should be a problem, but with banning Mox Opal, is you're going to piss off a lot of people. That card is insanely expensive. So I don't mean the collectors that are just sitting on them, you know, for the funsies, or even people that are like, oh yeah, I had this wacky idea, because Mox Opal wasn't really a thing when it was in Standard, as far as I recall. It wasn't a terribly desirable card there. It is kind of like Karn. Karn wasn't a big thing in Standard. Because you needed other pieces to make it work better. You needed more than that format had to give you. So people who picked up Mox Opals back when they were in Standard for cheap, because they had some kooky deck idea for Standard, or even saw the modern potential, you know, good on you. That's cool and all. But I don't even mean not pissing off those people that are like, wow, look how much my $5, you know, pick appreciated. I'm talking to people who recently decided that they were going to build Affinity, or Hardened Scales Affinity, or Lantern Control, or any of the other decks that use Mox Opal, and finally bit the bullet and took the hit of paying, last I heard, they were like $90 a piece. And bought them, like, within, you know, this past time where KCI became big, or shortly before it, because they've been very expensive for quite a while, because I don't think they've ever been reprinted. Those are the people that you're really going to hurt. You're really going to piss them off. At this point, if they bought the cards specifically for KCI, and yeah, there is the argument of, well, don't jump on broken decks like that, you know, because clearly something's going to be done about them. Even if they bought them specifically to play KCI, those cards will still hold value because they're, you know, integral to these other decks. Oh, doggies. Ugh. Yeah, my dog's an idiot on a leash, too. My neighborhood doesn't really have sidewalks. It's weird. So, whether they were picked up for one of the other decks they're used for, or if people picked them up specifically to play KCI, at least that hard financial hit will hasn't been completely devalued. Oh, the ice is real. Alright, so all that noise just indicated that I pulled into my driveway. So I'm home now, and I'm going to cut it off here. The rest of this week, hopefully we'll get to record the rest of this week. It's been a mess lately. I'm going to be focusing on Standard. I'm probably going to be focusing on Standard until Baltimore, because I really got to come up with something. I'm going to start jamming some fun builds on Arena to get a feel for it. And that's all I'm really going to say about KCI. I took a whole 20 minutes to talk about it and not really say a whole lot. But as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.